but
Okay. She's there
yeah,
today, huh?
yeah, she's there.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shantis Shantis Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Bhunaji. So we will continue our discussion of chapter 8, Akshara Brahma Yoga. 3 minutes introduction, and then we will do some chanting, and we will cover verses 17, 18, and 19. Interesting topics, but we just need to make sure that we are looking at these verses with the central theme of this chapter and central theme of the Bhagavad Gita, because there is a slippery slope. People just carried away with certain mythology or the stories referred in this verse. It talks about Brahmaji's day and night. It's easy for us to get carried away by that, but we need to pause and think why that subject matter is mentioned in these verses. So that's very important. And then we need to understand these verses. So some reinforcement of certain concepts we studied, we will see. And I would introduce a little bit concept which is not really talking in this verse, but pretty much important to understand the extended scope of the karma theory. Means we spent almost 3 weeks understanding the karma theory when we were doing chapter 2, but the extension of that also will be a little bit discussed because I got a couple of questions. And then if time permits, we can do some question answers. So this theme of this 8th chapter is upasana. And what is the purpose of this upasana? It is an enabler of moksha indirectly. Without upasana, you will not get moksha. It's not the direct means of moksha, but it will take you to a stage where you can actualize the knowledge, or you can establish yourself in that knowledge. So that's the role of upasana. And this chapter is mainly focused on this upasana. So this upasana, I'm giving the introduction from a totally different angle. I never discussed this introduction in this way. So upasana is the theme, and this upasana can take you to the final destination, which is moksha. Moksha means freedom from sufferings. Moksha means I realize who am I. I realize my identity with the true subject, right? The true observer in me, the true drik in me. That is moksha. And what is the role of upasana? Because mind, I wanted to have a pure and stable mind, and upasana is going to give me that stability of the mind. So this much is very clear to all of you. And this upasana can give me direct moksha, or another route. Upasana, what it can do is it can give me a like a two-step process. So for a Jivan Mukta Purusha, meaning a person who is realizing the self here and now, the upasana will give him a stable mind, and with that mind he will realize himself in this life. Another form of upasana, which is predominantly based upon Raja Yoga practices, Kundalini Yoga practices, what it does is it will give the stability of the mind, And also this upasana will teach the meditator some advanced meditation technique so that he can choose to leave his body at his will. Understand the difference, right? The easy path, one is the easy path, the other one is a difficult path. So easy path, meaning relatively easy path, is you do the normal upasana, you get a pure and stable mind. And when you get this pure and stable mind, what do? You seek knowledge and you get the self-realization in this life. The second option is, you know that you may not achieve the self-realization in this life and you don't want to take a chance. And such people, what they do is, if they are proficient in the upasana, if they are so much proficient in the advanced Raja Yoga, what do? They willfully give their, means attain moksha, meaning not attain moksha, they willfully leave their body. Remember, we said they will bring the prana to the top of the head, and through the Brahma Granthi, they release the prana. And what is going to happen to such people is, they will be taken to the Brahma Loka, and at Brahma Loka, they will listen the teaching from Ishvara, and eventually they get liberated. And that mukti is known as Krama Mukti, and the first path is known as Jivan Mukti. So we heard these two, and Krishna said, after giving both of these things, Krishna made a point very clear. What is that? He said, whether it is Jivan Mukti or Krama Mukti, you are achieving something big. Because if you go to any other state other than Mukti, right from Brahma Bhuvana Loka, that is what we heard, any world you go, you will have to come back again and again. The only way to end this rebirth, the only way to end the sufferings is knowing me. Once you know me means you are establishing your identity with me. You are establishing the identity with the true subject. That time, you will be freed from all the rebirths. I said rebirth is easy. People say that, yeah, it is good. But when you think about a birth, you have to think about the death also. You have to die again and again and again. Even one death itself is hard to think. So think about this, dying again and again and again. And you have to go through all the sufferings in the life. So to put an end to that suffering, the only way is come to know me. That is what we saw in the previous two verses. So let's pause here. And Anu, could you please chant from verse 15 to probably 21?
Sure.
Hope you all have the chanting sheet with you.
Sorry. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Ashtamodhyayah Akshara Parabrahma Yogah Mamupetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam Napnuvanti Mahatmanah Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha Brahma Bhuvanalokaha Punaravartinochuna Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate Sahasrayuga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vido Janaha Avyaktadyaktayaः sarvaः prabhavantyah ragame ratriyagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sanyake bhutagramasya evayam bhutva praliyate ratriyagame vashah partha प्रभवत्यः रागमे परस्तस्मात् तु भावोऽन्यः अव्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यस्य सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति अव्यक्तोऽक्षर इत्युक्तः तमाहुः परमां गतिं यं प्राप्य न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम.
Excellent. So the 15 and 16 verses, Krishna is saying that wherever you go, whatever you achieve with your karma, because if you're reborn, think about the karma theory. Means please follow very closely with the karma theory. So if you say that if you are reborn, means we are reborn, it implies certain thing. What is that?
We
Why are you?
Your actions now will definitely have a
Karma.
result in the next janma. Correct.
If you are reborn, whether it is in any loka, it is because of your karma.
Karma. Sanchita
Remember the
karma.
karma theory? Like at the end of your life, from the pool of Sanchita karma, a subset of karma will be taken, and that becomes your prarabdha karma, and that is how you're born to the next life. Clear, right? So, so if I am getting a life in a heaven, imagine if you are getting a life in a heaven, that is because of your karma. But what is the problem with heaven?
It's not permanent.
It is not permanent. So here is the fundamental difference between this Vedic thinking and the popular interpretation of the biblical thinking or the other Semitic thinking. For the popular interpretation, I'm not saying that that is the interpretation. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just talking about the prevalent interpretation of the biblical idea. What are you gaining? What is your ultimate destination? Heaven. Isn't it? Heaven is the ultimate destination. And what is the speciality of that heaven compared to the heaven we are talking here?
Permanent.
It's permanent. Once you go through the day of judgment, it is permanent. I'm saying that this is only a popular interpretation of the Bible. I'm not saying that this is the biblical interpretation. Please underline. So all the scriptures talk about the same thing, but the interpretation can be confusing. Just like in our group also, like if you go to some interpretation, it is like that. But I just wanted to bring one simple logic. The simple logic used by our rishis is very interesting. 1 second, let me put the charger. Sorry about that. Okay. So one simple logic is the result of an action. Suppose you pay $10. How much worth of good you will get?
$10.
Suppose you pay $1 million.
Million.
Sometimes it can vary up and down, but more or less, what you get is proportional to what you pay. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So now, in the world, or in this particular concept of heaven, typically we say that what exactly take you to heaven?
Good karma.
Good karma. Exactly. And what exactly take you to hell?
Bad karma.
Bad karma. Now, in a finite lifetime, you're doing a finite amount of karma. and the punya you earned in that by the finite amount of karma, the rishis think that it is not logical to think that a finite amount of karma is going to purchase you an infinite heaven. On the other side, a finite amount of papa is not the cause to get you an infinite or a permanent hell. This is exactly what our scriptures tells. The heaven and hell, the logic of thinking that the heaven and hell is permanent is illogical. Just because of the reason that a finite amount of karma cannot take you to an infinite period of time or infinite result. On the other side, a finite amount of papa cannot give me an infinite hell. Making this logic complicated, let's say that a kid is living only up to 5 years. Even that scope of finite karma will come down. But the popular interpretation of the Semitic idea, that child also may get a permanent hell or a permanent heaven. Now you yourself think about the logic. Never, it's not possible. Of course, that's not the biblical interpretation. I'm not saying that that is the interpretation. I'm just telling that this is how people interpret the scripture.
So, Rajaji, isn't the root cause that, there are certain scriptures that do not believe in rebirth, in coming back? They just believe that whatever happens after death, whether you go up or down, is permanent.
I would not say scriptures, interpretations. Some interpretations believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even there, see, think about that. Some of these interpretations say that they don't believe in rebirth. The moment I heard even criticisms. People say that, oh, what a ridiculous theory is yours. It talks about reincarnation. If some people ask you, just pause for a second and ask them, what is your theory? It will fall flat in a second. What is that theory they are talking? Do they believe in a soul?
No.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah, absolutely. They do believe in a soul. Of course, means we need to consider two things. One is the a particular interpretation of certain scriptures, and agnostics, right? The agnostics do not believe in a soul. That is different. Whereas people believe in certain scriptural interpretation. They believe that something survives the death. True?
Yes.
That's how the phrase also comes. What? Rest in peace. R.I.P. We had a discussion on that.
Yeah.
So what happens to the soul after the death? Have you thought about that, or have you discussed about that?
So Christians say that, they are in a state of limbo, afterlife.
Yeah, they are in a suspended animated state.
Yeah.
For an indefinite period of time. And when that will be resurrected?
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. So they believe that there is a soul. The only difference is that soul is not coming back and taking a birth. Rather, they will say that whatever is that finite time, they lived in this earth, that is going to determine their permanent fate.
Yeah.
Now the challenge is what? A child who is born and dead on the same day, that child's action will be judged for that one day. Whereas a person who living 120 years, he will be judged based on that day. So it's not a uniform scale. And more than anything, you are saying that you will get an infinite result with a finite set of actions. You will get a permanent blessing with a set of impermanent or finite set of action. You will get a permanent hell or a curse because of some finite set of action. Rishis do not accept that. So they say that even this heaven and hell means it is another state of experience. It could be here or it could be in some other plane of existence, we don't know. But that state is also temporary. No, two things. One is the state of that, the place is temporary because heaven has a beginning, heaven has an end. If there is a place called heaven, that has a beginning and that has an end. Even Brahma Loka has a beginning and end. It's not permanent. So the place is permanent, not permanent. Second thing what Krishna is saying is that even if you happen to get in there, you cannot live there forever. You won't get a permanent residency in heaven. Swami Dayananda used to say, in modern times, the spirituality is reduced to an immigration process to heaven. Right? Securing a permanent residence in heaven became, I'm not talking about Krishna also. Even in our group, some people are like that. Their goal is to go to Vaikuntha. We are not criticizing that, but we are just pointing out the fact. If you cannot get to an infinite state with a finite action, it's impossible. Logically.
But Rajesh,
yeah.
But when the reason they believe in that is because they don't believe in karma. They don't say, hey, this is the set of karma that I'm going to exhaust. It's just the good deeds and bad deeds.
Correct. But still, Rohiji, basing on their own argument, how many good deeds are going to determine, do you think like a 4 or 5 or 10 or 100 or finite number of good deeds, is that going to secure me an infinite prize?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not arguing that that's a right thing.
I'm not talking about the karma theory at all, because they don't believe in karma theory, but they're talking about the merit of your deeds. And even if that is the case, imagine a guy going to hell. By whatever means, he might be deluded, he might be misguided, or he might be under a different challenging circumstances. He did a few mistakes. Once you get into hell, what do? You're stuck for the entire, there is no life, and that goes forever. I am terrified. Like, this is, if you think a little bit more deep, you get completely confused.
And also disheartened.
Yeah.
There's no hope.
Yeah. And every day morning, you have to go through a new punishment. One day you will be put into fire. Next day you will be, actually, your body will be cut. And another day you will be put into ice.
So Rajesh ji, so the hell is the ultimate one? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about the some other theologies. Even, this heaven, hell is permanent hell. But when you come back to our Purana, they talk about hell. That hell means it's a temporary existence. You go through your karma.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood that correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
Reminds me about financial analysis when you do. I remember when I was little, my grandpa used to say, there is a guy sitting in a buffalo on the top with a gada, and he has a big ledger. He'll put debit and credit. The more good you do, you put it on the right side. The more bad you do, you put it on the left side, and he balances you out. So you better start doing good deeds now.
Yeah, no, that is good actually. But the point, I'm disputing only one portion. I'm only disputing the fact that If you say that it's permanent,
The result is permanent.
yeah, that is where the logic fails. So, of course, if your good deeds outnumber your bad deeds, yeah, you may go to heaven. But is that good enough? And what is the cutoff? I mean, there's so much of logical issue. So let's not go there. But that's not the scripture also. Means, like, means if you really look at Bible from the Vedantic angle, you have an explanation for all these things, right? We have the same issue in our Puranas also. If you really look at that, all these issues are there. So I'm not talking about a particular religion or their thoughts or anything like that. I'm just talking about certain interpretations of the scriptures by every religion. Let's highlight that. So let's continue. So this is the theme we are going to see now. So let's see. Anu, can you chant verse 17?
Yeah. Sahasrayugaparyantam aharyat brahmano viduhu ratrim yugasahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha.
Very interesting verse. So Krishna start discussing about, you may think that this karmas are going to take you to the infinite state. He tells no, because the most longest duration or longevity is in one plane of existence, and that plane of existence is known as Brahmaloka, because that is where you get the Kramamurti. So the verse tells, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharsyat Brahmano Viduhu. So you understand, right? Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. Do you know what is a yuga? Here, a yuga is referring to something called Mahayuga. Mahayuga means it is a combination of 4 yugas. Anybody knows what exactly it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the 4 Chatur Yugams combined is one
Satya Yuga,
The
Kriya
Dwapara
Yuga,
Yuga.
Treta Yuga,
Treta
Dwapara Yuga.
Kali Yuga.
Yeah,
Kali
yeah.
Yuga.
So those yugas means 4 or 5 or whatever. Satya Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, the Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga. It doesn't matter whatever exactly it is. What Krishna is saying is that Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So thousands of this yuga, right? One yuga is a combination of, one Mahayuga is a combination of this individual 4 yuga, Chatur Yuga, and 1,000 such yuga. What do you call? It is thousands of such yuga is one day of Brahmaji. That is called Mahayuga. So thousands of individual yuga is known as one day of Brahmaji. And 1,000 of such yuga is known as one night of Brahmaji. So this is exactly what this verse means.
Please repeat that, Rajeshri.
Yeah.
1,000
Yeah, the one day of Brahmaji is
Is
equal to 1,000
Mahayuga.
yugas.
that is one Mahayuga.
Yeah, one Mahayuga.
One Mahayuga.
Yeah, and
And the night.
yeah, and then 1,000 yuga, another 1,000 yuga is his night. His day and night are of equal duration.
2,000.
And then the life of Brahmaji is how much?
100 years.
100 years.
Then
So-
another Brahma will come, right? After that.
Yeah, I'm going to explain this a little bit more detail, because this needs, here is the problem, right? When you study Bhagavad Gita, or Bhagavad Gita, it is less, but when you study the Puranas, this is the only chapter in Bhagavad Gita you get into these type of Puranic reference. So if you don't know the language of the religion, you will get completely confused and carried away. So what we are saying is that there are, let's try to understand logically, and then we will go and understand the story. And I'm going to tell you some inconsistencies in the Purana also. That is also important to know. First of all, we need to understand what is Purana, the purpose of Purana, and why these stories are given, and what is the symbolism of each one of this, because otherwise you don't need to understand. So here, why Krishna is referring to the life of Brahmaji? Can any one of you make a comment? I was trying to lead into that particular topic earlier. What did Krishna said in the previous verse? Whatever you can achieve by performing a karma, whatever loka or whatever state you can achieve by performing a karma, abrahma bhuvana loka, punaravarti norjuna. Whatever is the loka you go, that loka you will have to come back, and that loka is permanent. And then he is taking, based upon the mythology or the Purana, he is going to refer to that loka which has the maximum longevity. And then he is going to say that even that loka is going to come to an end. So you see that why the purpose of it is introduced in this chapter. You got it, right? So if you think that your karma is going to take you to even to Brahmaloka, you may live longer, but what is the problem?
Still impermanent.
It's still
Still
impermanent. So every lokas are impermanent. Every loka is impermanent. And in the next two verses, he talks about the cyclic nature of this universe. Even this verse, he is taking about that. So now let's go back to Purana. So that's the whole idea. Means from a Gita perspective, that is the only thing you need to know. Because earlier he said,
when you say that every loka is impermanent, then there itself we need to say what is permanent, right?
Correct. Permanent means what? That should stay in all period of time and space. And here we are going to say that even time and space are not permanent. There is nothing permanent there. So if you think that you are secure by getting into Brahmaloka, no, that is the point. No state is permanent, including Brahmaloka. To illustrate that idea, he tells the life of Brahmaji. Who is Brahmaji? Why we use the prefix Brahmaji here? To differentiate it from Brahman. Because otherwise it is confusing. You say Brahman, Brahma, all these terminologies, you may think that when you say Brahman, it might be confused with the Mr. Brahma, who is the creator. And when you say Brahma, you may confuse with Brahman, the absolute reality. So to differentiate this, Swami Chinmayananda came up with this wonderful idea. He said, Brahmaji is Mr. Brahma, Brahman is the absolute reality. Now, who is Brahmaji? Now connect back to the original idea.
Now the Puranam enters, right? So
Yeah, no, like even right. Let's try to understand Puranam from the Vedantic perspective, because otherwise these Puranas can confuse you like anything. And I just finished one Purana called Brahma Purana. Oh my God, it will confuse you like anything. Stories after stories after story, and one story will contradict with another Purana. So you need to understand the purpose of this Purana. We need to be very honest and critical in our understanding. So let's think through this idea. So from a Vedantic perspective, who is Parameshwara, right? From a Vedantic perspective, there is an absolute reality. We call it as Brahman, we call it as Aksharam, we call it as Avyaktam, and that is the Adhisthana, cause for everything. And what is the nature of that Brahman? Sat, Chit, Ananda. And this Brahman is the absolute reality that pervades everywhere. Manifested universe, unmanifested universe. And this is the true Ishvara. If you really remember the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna made this point very clear. If you remember, he said, I have two nature. One is called transcendental. Remember that? And the other one is called immanent, right? So the transcendental nature means, he said, initially everything manifests from that absolute reality. From that absolute reality, what happened? The differentiated universe came in. And from the differentiated universe, all these universe got manifested. And after some time, what happens? This manifested universe will go back to the unmanifested universe. And this, he said, like, this universe emerges out of me. It comes back to me. He used two words, pralaya and prabhava. And when we say avyakta or unmanifest, at that point of time, we said avyakta is not abhava. Right? Avyakta is not abhava. Avyakta is unmanifest or a potential. So the water you have in a dam, that has energy. What do you call that energy?
Potential.
Potential energy. You may not see that, but that energy is in the potential form. And when the turbine rotates, you get that energy. The potential energy will turn into kinetic energy. But can you assume that you can create kinetic energy without potential energy? It's impossible. So when the universe gets manifested, it is not coming out of nothing. If there is another simple example given in the Upanishad is, without a seed, a tree will not come. So you cannot say that if a tree is manifesting, that implies a seed. So if I say that a rotten tree, a rotten seed is there, or a roasted seed is there, no tree can come out of it. So avyakta is not abhava. Abhava means non-existent. It is existing, but it is in the potential form. So this is the absolute reality. From that absolute reality, the universe will emerge, it will stay, it will go back, and within the universe, individuals will manifest. Remember all those discussions we had. The individuals means, just like the micro, there is a macro. The individuals will have individual body, mind, and intellect. And Atma, just like that, the totality has a total body, total mind, total intellect, and the Ishvara, the total manifestation is called Ishvara. And everything in this universe is an intelligent order of Ishvara. That is what the word we used. The sun rotates, or the season changes, or the earth functions in certain way. Our body behaves in a certain way. All that is part of that intelligent order of the universe. So in that overall order of Parameshwara, or the God, there is a creative potential. A potential or the order of the Ishvara that controls the manifestation of the being. Whether it is the manifestation of the planet, or whether it is the manifestation of the individual, there are certain rules and order governing that. And that is what we call it as Brahmaji. In that intelligent order of the Ishvara, there is something that sustains everything. It maintains, it makes sure that the system remains stable. And that order of Ishvara is known as Vishnu. And there is an order which forces changes, which takes everything back or changes. And that is known as Maheshwara, or the Shiva. So how many gods are there? There is only one Parameshwara. Shiva is part of his order. Vishnu is part of his order. Brahma is part of the order. Now, when you look at Brahma, you will see that he has 4 heads. He has like a white beard, and Vishnu has blue color. all that are symbolisms. All that is, you need a pratika, right? You need a symbolization. Just like a flag represents a country, just like a coin represents, means a statue represents an individual. There are so many symbols, right? When the logo represents the organization, like that, a form was created, and this particular idea is superimposed on that form. So Brahmaji is something which manages the entire creation. That intelligent order of the Parameshwara, which controls the creation, is known as Brahmaji. And what is the longevity of this Brahmaji? So this individual lokas, other than, so there are two levels of creation. So per the story, per the popular story, per the Vishnu Purana, if you take Shiva Purana, you get a totally different story. Per the popular story of Vishnu Purana, at the beginning of this manifestation, the first being that get manifested is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is, they say that he will be lying down on a leaf, and from his navel a lotus will come out, and from that lotus Brahmaji comes out. You heard that story, right? Yeah. So what they say is that when the whole world, the material world, comes out of Brahmaji's mind, that is how Manasa Srishti, that is the term used in our scriptures. So the intelligent order of the universe, from himself, Manasa Srishti means he didn't take the material cause from outside. The example used is as a spider, right? A spider brings the material cause from himself. But there is a difference from spider and this creation, because in the case of a spider, once the net is made, that is different from the spider. But when you think about your mind, just think about your dream. Who creates the dream space? Who creates the dream time? Who creates the whole mountains, plants, animals in your dream? What is the stuff? What is the material used? Your own mind, correct? Yeah. It's called mind stuff. Vivekananda called it as. That is the term he used. He called it as mind stuff. So like that, Brahmaji take the material cause from his mind and creates the whole world. So now what happens is, symbolically it said that there is a day and night for Brahmaji. And when Brahmaji wakes up, what happens? The Srishti begins. And the end of Brahmaji, when he goes to sleep, the manifested universe unfolds. Remember, when he goes to sleep, his mind is not working. So one day of Brahmaji, which is 1,000 yugas, if you calculate that, it will come approximately 4.3 billion years. I know that it will be more than that in the modern science, but if you calculate per the Purana, it will come around 4.3 billion years. So this is the longevity of a particular period. So this is the idea. When Brahmaji wakes up, the universe begins. And when Brahmaji goes to sleep, the universe goes to unmanifest stage. But not all the loka. The Brahma loka will stay alive. So the Brahma loka begins at the beginning of the Brahmaji. So 100 years of Brahmaji, the Brahma loka will be active. But the other loka, the Pur, Bhuva, Suvaha, all such lokas will be manifested every day when the Brahmaji wakes up, and it will go to the unmanifested state every day when the Brahmaji goes to sleep. And finally, after 100 years, when the Brahmaji himself becomes unmanifest, that is the time the Brahma loka also will be dismantled or unmanifested stage. So this is what is the creation, the popular creation theory of the Purana. So now Krishna, what he is telling in this verse is, he pulled that story of the Purana and he said that, think about this. Even if you go to Brahmaloka, what would be your longevity? 1,000 years times Mahayuga. Sorry, 100 years. 100 years. So 365 times, 100 times one Mahayuga. Now that is what you get. Even that will come to an end. There is a joke. One professor was teaching. This is a real thing happened. You can see, I think this story came in Reader's Digest or something like that. So one professor was teaching about this creation theory. Anybody heard of this one? He said like the sun got manifested 4 billion years back. And in 4 billion years later, no life will be there in the world. One student got, oh my God, he just cried as if something is happening. What did the professor say? It's after 4 billion years. And then he was joking. He said, oh, I thought it is after 4 million years. You got the joke, right? What does it make? What difference it is going to make? Whether it is 4 million or 4 billion for you. Your life is 100 years. So you don't care about these things. I just quoted the story to say that it is not going to impact us in our life at all. So don't spend too much time on this type of idea. Some people now will go back. They will take a paper and a pen or a calculator and they say that, okay, Krita Yuga is this much years, Dwapara Yuga is this much years, and they calculate all that, and then Brahmaji has 100 years. They will come back with a number 4,387,000,000, something like that. What is the purpose? How does that spiritually it is going to help you? Not at all. So Shankaracharya in his commentary, he ignores all those things. He tells that all the lokas are impermanent. Some may have a little bit more duration. Some more have a little bit of less duration. Some people tell me like they are waiting for the Christmas holidays because they get 10 days. Compared to the normal long weekend, that appears to be good, certainly. But have you ever felt that holiday was good enough? You go to India or you go to a vacation, 10 days will pass like this, right? In a split second. So any amount you get, you will not be contented. So the point in this verse, the message in this verse is, every loka in this universe is impermanent. Whether it is Brahmaloka, whether it's you born as an amoeba, your lifetime is few hours. Certain other, the life of a dog, 15 years, right? So every being has its own lifespan or the longevity. But the point is that everything is finite. And if you want a permanent solution, meaning, see, again, you may ask me, you already said that the finite amount of karma will not make you infinite. True. In moksha, are you saying that you are becoming something? Are you creating something which you are not? So in moksha, you're not changing, you're not achieving something. You're realizing something only. You already are there. Did the 10th man created something new to get realization that he is the 10th man? If he had to create something which is an infinite position, finite karmas will not make it. That is for sure. But if he is already infinite, he is only realizing it, that's a different logic. Think through that. So that's what it is. So coming back and summarizing, This verse is just telling that even Brahmaji's life, considered to be the longest life in this universe, that is impermanent. Now I got a question. I don't know who asked it. I think Ratnagarji asked this question. So the question is, why, let's say that after a kalpa, or after a cycle, for example, why the world is manifesting again and again and again? And after the duration of a Brahmaji's time, why a new Brahmaji is coming and the world is manifesting? One answer is what? There are individual jivas whose karma is left behind. So this collective karma is forcing the universe to manifest again and again and again. I know that it is a stretched answer. It's a too much complicated answer, but that is the answer. For example, let's imagine a state where everybody in this planet is self-realized. Then theoretically there may not be another manifestation, but that's not the case. It is a cycle. It's coming and coming and coming. But what I would recommend you is, don't spend too much time on these things. As Shankaracharya rightly pointed out, what is relevant for my spiritual progress? There is only one message. And that message is, whatever you gain, even if it is $1 million or $1 billion, you will not get complete happiness and contentment. The only way to gain freedom from all the suffering is moksha. And you can approach that moksha either through the Jivan Mukti path or through the Krama Mukti path. The ultimate destination is moksha. So hold on to me. That is the message Krishna wants to convey. The word of caution is, most of the people miss the obvious and they go after this Puranic story. I just told you the Puranic story. I explained to you who is Brahmaji, etc. just to understand the overall theme. Overall theme is the impermanency of the nature. And even if you read some of the commentaries, these commentators will go after the yuga and the years, etc. That's not important. And just to show you that problem, these yugas is again a model. It's a model to classify the duration or the different types of time estimation. So different Puranas gives different calculations on the yuga. So you might have heard of this Chatur Yuga because all of you are popular, most of you are reading Vishnu Purana or the Bhagavad Purana. That is why. If you go to some other Purana, you will get a different classification of the yugas. So please don't get hold on these things and stay there. Our purpose of studying Gita is not to do research on how many years was there in a yuga or not. Our purpose is to elevate ourselves and get closer to that spiritually advance. And to get that spiritual advancements, the only reason why Krishna quoted this here is just to show its impermanence. I'm reiterating this again and again. The reason is a lot of people get caught on this and stay there. It's like the Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. He quoted that for a different purpose, but people just go after that. It has to be aligned with the central theme of the teaching. So this is what it is. Any questions? I know that we spent 1 hour on that verse, but this verse is confusing. It can take you to a different direction if you don't follow this with the central theme of the Gita.
So Rajaji, I was, while reading this verse, I was also thinking, why is Krishna telling us about this verse?
Yeah.
And which you explained that he is telling us this so that we don't get hung up on the numbers and how long Brahmaji's life is and all the kalpa logic and everything.
Only
But
bottom line is that even Brahmaji's life is finite. So
Is
just
finite.
don't think that any life you get is permanent.
Right. But is it possible that Krishna is also trying to point out that there are other lokas also out there, and there is this, progression from
No, now that is not the intent. Intent is because even if there is another loka, you have a birth, you have a growth, you have a decay, you have a death. Means it doesn't matter. You go to another place and get caught here. And the next two verses are going to make it very clear. He's going to tell what is going to happen to a jiva. He's going to explain the cyclic nature of this universe. So the universe will come, it will go, it will come, it will go, and what is going to happen to us. So we will go a little bit deeper. I'll connect with Puranas a little bit more. The next two verses may take a little bit time, but we will go a little bit deeper and try to understand the Puranic meaning, and then we will come back to the thread and continue with our discussion, because otherwise it will keep in the mind and you all get confused. I just said that it was, I got completely confused when I was reading this verse initially, long time back. So then I had to go back and do the research on this, why this verse is here. So we need to understand.
Mhm.
Any questions? Okay. If not, we can stop here. We will continue our Atma Bodha discussion on Saturday. Please post the questions. Rohitji, thank you very much for those wonderful
Is it
questions.
Saturday?
Saturday or
Thursday.
Thursday?
Sorry, Thursday. I'm sorry. Thursday we will do the Atma Bodha, and Sunday we will continue with the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3.
It's today's topic is pretty interesting because we know a lot of Puranams, right?
Yeah.
So how this is all falling into place, how it's very interesting. So
Yeah.
the Brahmaji's mind is what the creation is all about, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Even these Sanat Kumara, all those things, they are known as Manasaputra. Have you heard of that? Manasaputras of Brahma.
Correct.
Even Narada is considered as a Manasaputra. Every creation comes from his mind. It's so logical from that perspective. And Brahmaji's one day is the whole the Bhuloka's existence.
So what are these Saraswati, the consort of Brahma, just the
Yeah, we can talk about that another day. It is a long discussion. How these Puranas, I'll pull one day. Like we need to marry these concepts, because that's what we are doing in the Gita. In the chapter 3 also, we try to do that with the conventional yajna and how it is. What Krishna does is he brilliantly takes this and he put that into the central theme of the Gita. So the problem is people are familiar only with this Purana. So when they go through that Puranic angle, they take it into a different direction. So yajna conventionally means that you put these oblations into fire. Krishna took that and he said, like, the oblations are your actions. That's what he did. Like that.
So do we need to do yajna or just follow whatever?
Yajna means yajna we need to do, but what is the yajna? Krishna is saying that yajna need not be the fire ritual. Yeah, you can do the fire ritual, but you can convert every action into yajna. So this is what we are discussing in the 3rd chapter. You can just, last week we spent a lot of time. I'll post the video. You can just look at the last lesson. We spent a lot of time on marrying these two ideas. So that is good.
So Rajesh,
Yes,
the creation, the universe is a creation from Brahma's mind. And is that the same thing as Maya?
Yeah, means Maya. These are again Maya. Creation is Maya. What is Maya? Anything born out of avidya is Maya. That is one definition. So when you see that multiplicity, it is Maya. So to that extent, we can say that the creation is Maya. So some people try to interpret creation as unreal. It is not unreal. It is relatively real. That word we need to use. So some people say Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, the Maya is Mithya. Mithya never means unreal. Mithya or the Maya means relatively real. A gold ornament has a temporary existence compared to gold. So the reality of the gold ornament is relative, whereas the gold continue to exist even after the ornament. So this Maya is also a complicated topic. We will explore that further. But to answer your question, yes, that is Maya. But this is the creation theory. And again, this is a particular model. It's a mythological model. You can choose to believe, you can completely ignore it. That is up to you. But the idea is, you can choose to believe the creator as Mr. Brahma or Brahmaji, or you can choose to believe as nothing. It doesn't matter. But the whole idea is understand that there is an intelligent order behind the whole manifestation. And that order, you can, if anybody fails to see that, they're not opening their eyes and see it. That you can see that order in every part of the universe. And that's why Swami Vivekananda was very much reluctant in using the word creation, because he tells the word creation implies some things out of nothing. That's not what the idea, Srishti. Srishti means something that is actually manifested from an unmanifested. From a potential form, something got manifested. There is a difference in these two terminologies. Do you know, like in the World's Parliament of Religion, when Swami Vivekananda was talking about the paper on Hinduism, he said, I will not insult your intelligence by asking you to believe a creation theory. So I would like to use the word manifestation than creation. That's exactly what he presented.
Both are same.
No, actually creation implies something out of nothing. So creation means, it implies three. If you go to Vedanta, Vedanta discusses this in detail, right? So Srishti, it implies three things. One is called the material cause. The other one is called intelligent cause, right? And the third one is efficient cause. These are the three causations. Material cause means if a pot maker is making a pot, let's take that as an example. The clay is the material cause. And the pot maker is the intelligent cause. And sometimes he uses an instrument to make the pot. That is the efficient cause.
Yeah,
so
not the pot example. Give us the real example, the creation example.
Yeah, real example means you have to use an example. Real example you cannot imagine, right?
See, this universe.
So in the case of the universe, what is the material cause?
Material cause is the land and sea and all those things, right?
No. No. If
The
you go to the Mahabhutas, go back from where the Mahabhutas comes in. Brahman, the reality. So the Brahman, the reality is the material cause. The Brahman, the reality is the intelligent cause. The Brahman, the reality is the efficient cause.
Efficient. So all the causes.
All the causes are in one. So this is there in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the whole creation theory. So this is totally different, means from the conventional creation. So that is why the Swapna Drishtanta is very important. In a dream, the Swapna Drishtanta closely tells you what the mimics the Vedantic creation. But people think that then the world is Ishvara's dream. That is not what it means. It's just an example. Every example has its limitation, and that's why it's called an example. Otherwise, it's the actuality, right? So in your dream, as I explained earlier, you're seeing the river, you're seeing the flower, you're seeing the mountain, you're seeing the other people. Who created them?
Brahmaji, right?
Who created in your dream? Your dream.
In my dream, it's me. It's me.
Right? Who is what is the material cause? What external?
My mind is the material cause.
The material cause is yourself. Who is the intelligent cause? You.
Me.
So the world, the universe created like that. God didn't borrow some material for creating the world. The God didn't consult with an architect for creating the world. So everything came from, because this is a limited idea of God if you think like that. So when you think through this in deep, it makes sense logically. That's another area of discussion. We can discuss another time, the whole Srishti Vada. Like I talked about this, right? When we talk Ishavasya Upanishad, we will go in this detail. Like in the Western world, right? What is the biblical concept? Creatio ex nihilo. This is the theory. So Vedanta, in our model, Indian spirituality, there is something called Asatkaryavada. Something came out of nothing. So certain schools in Indian tradition also believe in that. The biblical tradition, the Islamic tradition, everybody believe in that. And contrary to that, there is some other model which is called Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada means it's not a creation, it's manifestation. So the Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, those schools follows that. And even within Satkaryavada, there are two theories. I'm not complicating it. I'm just giving you the depth of thinking we have. So let's talk about this when we start Isha Upanishad, because we'll discuss this in detail. But today's takeaway is even Brahmaloka is temporary. We will continue this discussion.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Gonaji, could you please chant the concluding verses?
Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavaseshyate. Om Shantis Shantis Shantihi. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Okay, somebody just messaged me what were the two theories in the Satkaryavada. Can you just give the name? The name is, one is called Parinamavada and the other one is called Vivartavada. Parinamavada means something got transformed into other. Sankhya school believe in that. And what is believed in the Vedanta, it is called Vivartavada, which is called a projection. Sorry, just got the message. People are curious.
From the YouTube? Direct?
No, in the WhatsApp, somebody just messaged me individually. I think somebody in this group itself.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Rajesh. Thank you.